So this is a pretty standard way of showing this technique. So I went in and I made, shit, I thought I already had this open. Hang on a second, what the hell's that? Just pulled that out for some reason. Okay. Let me find this real quick. I went in and I made a quick, we'll talk about that in a second, because this kind of tells you how this works. I made a quick sphere, okay? And this is just to show you kind of a little bit how this kind of thing works. I'm going to go to my mixer brush. I'm on a round. I'm going to go just enough to grab this thing. I'm going to go Option, click, and if you see, it's up there in my window. Okay. Now, by the way, to do this, what we're going to do, I got it on dry, heavy load on your drop down. If you don't, what it tends to do is go very transparent. Okay. So I'm going to go back over here. Oops, over here. Let's shrink this. And it creates this brush. Does that make sense? Okay, so now here's the difference with what we've been doing. It's keeping all the lighting information, keeping all the information. Does that make sense, Casey? Okay. Now, we still can go in here and go, let's jack up the size, jitter, angle. It's round, so I don't know if the angle is going to do much. Let's do that. Let's go scattering. Well, let's see what this does. Okay, so it's sort of screwed it up in a nice way. Yeah? Okay. So let's go. It's not giving me all my tools. So I just did transfer. So it gives me that nice little trail off if I want that. So let's go. Let's go scattering. Right? Now, if I had this the right color, I could come in here. And I could start to turn this into a smoke plume. Does that make sense? Because I'm getting these, look at, I'm getting volume, lighting volume, because it's coming from that sphere. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because you program the brush to have all of the colors.
And again, there's 10,000 ways to use this. And I want to control my edges. Then I'd go, you know, if this was gray or whatever. Well, let's try it. Let's start dialing in a little bit. You know, there's, you know, in other words, just, you know, you can program these things to do whatever you want. You know, and I start to get a quick, you know, and the thing I like about that, again, it's not a uniform, here's my smoke brush where everything looks the same. It's like, it takes me 5 seconds and I could, you know, if I had a scene where, let's say it was post-apocalyptic and there's like smoke coming off of debris and there's smokestacks and there's all this stuff, I can just go all that stuff with the brush, then go in and soften and change everything. It would take me 5 minutes. Okay. Okay. So does that make sense?
Yes.
And let's go. Oh, no, wrong brush. Doesn't give me color dynamics in this case, but whatever, it doesn't really matter. So, and then I could also, if I did that, let's try this. Let's see if we can do this. Let's go back to our, I'm really bothered where my favorite brushes went. That's disturbing. Let's go to these, because I think I can probably take this. And this is now a different brush. Okay. Let's trying to find something that's really interesting. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. So these different texture brushes are giving me different ideas, but with that color lighting, does that make sense?
Yeah, so all you did was you just changed the drop down, or sorry, did you go into your settings to pick up the different
Yes.
brush?
The
Oh,
same
okay.
brush settings we use to create brushes.
Okay.
Okay. And I'm just using the same tool, scattering, transfer, angle jitter. Let's go try one more. Trying to find a really nice, let's see what this one looks like. See, that's pretty nice. Again, this could be, you know, I can use that lighting and I could create a ground texture. I know I'm using a weird color, but do you see what I mean? Like this is a mixer brush. I could do this on my sample all layers, which I don't have on. Let's see what happens now. Yeah, see now it's picking up some of that underneath. So if that was a nice ground color, like to Issei's point, if underneath this, I might have put just a wash of like browns and subtle natural earth tones and just wash it all in there. So when I go back over for this, it's going to pick that up into my paint and mix into my paint. So it's very much going to blend in and make a very natural looking, super painterly kind of thing. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's that. Okay. Does that all make sense? Okay. And then, so let's try a different thing here. Okay, so now we've got, I'm going to switch this. So I made this little brush real quick. It's just a stamp brush. Okay, actually, it's just an image. It's not even a stamp brush. But I used our stamp brush techniques and things like that to make it. Does that make sense? And obviously it's crude, but who cares? So I'm going to go, okay, same thing, right? I'm just going to get this to encompass it all. And now it's up there. You see it? Option, click, just like your stamp brush. And I can start to come in here and build. Let's go a little bigger here. Tree shape. Does that make sense? Again, it's holding all that color information, and I'm just stamping it. Okay.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and then but it's got to be on dry heavy load right here, you guys. That's really important. Now here's something that I screwed up on. I'll show it to you at the end. Don't let me forget that because it's really pissed me off when I was doing it. I have sample all layers on, which I probably shouldn't.
I'm sorry, Mike. Why does it have to be on dry heavy load?
It's just it'll be like transparent if it doesn't. You have to keep clicking it.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
Okay. So I'm assuming that means exactly what it's saying. It's like going on with a really dry, heavy paint, and it's going to have a lot of opacity.
Okay? Oh, I
Okay?
got it. So it's very clean. Yeah.
It's just very opaque.
Yeah. Solid.
Okay. So then let's go back over. Okay. So now let's do another thing. Let's go back over here because I'm going to want to vary that, correct? So I'm going to go back over here. And I took this same image and I just made a stamp brush out of it. Okay. We all know how to do that, right? Just selected it, define brush preset, boom. So that is here. Right here, bush. Okay. Now I'm going to go in and go, I want a little bit of this. Let's go a little bigger. I want just to concentrate here. So I'm going to command click it. There it is. Go back over here. And now I can start to vary it out a little bit. I'm going to pull that out.
Yeah, and they're all harmonious, so that's great.
And then I could go a little smaller. I don't like that. That's too obvious. Or bigger. And I'm going to come back over here and go, well, maybe I want to define a little more of that dark. Yeah, that's not too bad. And again, I would use that in conjunction with other things. And then let's try this. There it is. If it's a nice bright day, I might do that. Does that make sense? Let's go back over here and get another area. Let's try this again. See, really bright. So maybe I'll take this up here. Now, here's another thing. Oh, I like that. I like that. See, not too bad, right? Now, another thing I might do, let's see if I can do this. Let's go here. I'm going to go to a regular brush. Okay, so all that makes sense, correct?
Yes.
You know, now I would need to give this some context. Let's just take a neutral, whatever. Oops. Oh, see what it did right there? That's exactly what I was going to talk about. See that gray?
Yes.
Yeah. How do you get rid of, or how do you prevent that?
I'm going to tell you right now because it's weird it's picking that up. Shouldn't be. I must have sampled it off there. Okay, so what happens is if you have sample all layers on your mixer brush, it's going to pick up the gray too. Okay, I fought this for a long time. So I'm like, this thing doesn't work because it's so stupid. I had sample all layers on, so it was picking up the background. You don't have that off when you're sampling your this, okay, or it will pick up the background. Does that make sense?
Even if a layer is locked, it'll still pick it up.
I think so. Yeah.
Right on. Okay.
Just turn it off. Just make sure sample all layers is off. Okay, and then it won't pick up the background. So that's what I want to talk about. So it picked up this. I must have sampled off this or something. I don't remember. Because in here, let's go. It's not on here, so I didn't pick it up from here, I don't think. Hang on.
It was the other file. You probably
Okay.
had. Oh no, that's off too.
I know, but I think I just turned it off.
Oh.
Yeah, this one's fine. Okay. But if I have sample layers on, it's not going to be fine. And now for But anyway, what I'd probably do now is I'd make a leaf brush and scatter it. And I'd just go and scatter a couple leaves around the edges, break it off a little bit, and boom, I got a tree and it looks very complex. Does that make sense? What else am I going to say? And again, I could take this same brush and roll it like we did the other one. And I could probably make another smoke brush. This would probably be a really good smoke brush. Does that make sense? Or whatever brush, whatever. Okay. What I want you guys to do is the same thing. Make a little foliage-y thing, and then sample that with your mixer brush. Make sure it's on dry, heavy loader. It won't have any opacity. What was I going to say? And then just make a stamp brush out of that original bush shape, and then sample from that. And the reason you're doing that is so it doesn't have a regular edge. It has an irregular foliage edge, and you can sample from certain areas to sort of to sort of create your tree. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
And then go, that's why I picked it up. So so this was off and locked, and it picked up the gray, which is kind of weird actually. And at some point I must have had sample of layers on. So I might, let's go back here. Let's go real quick. I'm just going to try and make something that oops. I don't like that. Hang on. I'm trying to find something that feels a little leafy. without it feeling overly done. Maybe this. Let's see if that'll work. Okay, that's super weird. What did I just do here? Well, that's weird. Hang on.
I think it's because you have the background gray.
Yeah, but it shouldn't because I'm on its own layer. This isn't a mixer brush now,
Oh,
which is weird. Hang on. Let's go back. That is super weird. This is, I'm going to take this on its own. I'm going to go into a different file here. That is weird. Too uniform. Okay, that's right. It's some setting I've got on this, which I'm not exactly sure what I did. So let's go back to here. Get rid of this. Back here. And go. Okay, there's that. And let's go. I want to go back up here. I'm just going to do this real quick. Let's see if it's too much. It's probably going to be a little too much, I would guess. Want transfer on, that's fine. Shape dynamics is still not where I want it. Let's see what that looks like. Not perfect, but probably be okay. Come on. And let's go. So I could sample here. I don't like this brush a lot, but you get my point. I could come over here. Normally I would separate those out a little more and get them to dance over and probably just hit the lights. Does that make sense?
yes.
I'd probably just hit one more scattering in this.
Is it because the original brush, like the parts of the leaves are like too close together?
For what?
Like the way you
Brush, I
designed
mean?
the brush, because you put like a couple of leaves together and you defined it as a brush.
Yeah, normally I could dial this in. I'm just trying to do it fast.
Gotcha.
You know, but what I'm basically want to do is create something that gives me a little variation here and there. I don't like that. But what I'd really do is probably I'd probably actually go back, create one leaf. That way I could hyper control the spread. And then I could just dance a couple over it where it's catching highlights and that'd be it, right? But what I don't mind about this is it gives me a little bit of variation so I can cover up some of this stuff because I don't want it to start feeling repeaty. Like I can come, this is really good for like the darker masses and still leave some of that out there. There, that's not too bad. So it's actually a good brush to define the inner shadows because it's not, what I don't want is I don't want to see the leaves everywhere. Okay. I want certain areas masked. Okay. Then I would have another one that does a little more of this dancing light over it and I'm out. Does that make sense? I might even come in here sometimes and go, you know, I would soften that up. I'd soften some of this stuff up.
So Mike, it's Issei. So would you break down a bush like this into maybe 3 or 4 stamp brushes where it's the big form, maybe one to put shadows in, and then one to do like these light leaves?
Well, the
or-
lights and shadows in the basic mass, I'm going to pull out of my original thing because I can go into different sections. I can make it bigger or smaller, and I can vary it quite a bit just with that. And then I'm going to do a layer over. You're probably using the same brush like I did here, probably on color dodge. By the way, what color dodge is doing, remember our dodge tool,
Yes.
which lightens everything? Now, I remember I told you dodge and burn, you got to be careful with because lighten tends to just throw a lot of white into it usually. And dark, burn tends to throw a lot of black into it, okay? The color dodge overlay, and by the way, you can do it just on a brush. So remember this, I might not want it on the whole layer, right? I can assign that right here on my brush. So it's not changing the whole layer, it's just the brush, okay? I think I have it here on the layer. What that's doing is, so I'm using the same color and the same brush, and I'm putting it on color dodge. And what that's doing is it lightens it up and saturates it. So it's sort of like, just like we just talked about, it's coming into the light and getting saturated, which a lot of foliage does. Some of it doesn't. A lot of foliage does. But it's not just going white. It's taking the color and sort of burning it. It's dodging it. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Another handy tool when you're painting, okay? Because sometimes you want to really hype up that. Like I might do that, like this right here, you can tell this kind of color here in relation to this color. You see that on lawns all the time, big long lawn, and it's got like a big shadow area, and then the sun's hitting another part of it, and it's like boom, acidic green like that.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so that's basically how I'd use it, okay? And then I'm probably only gonna go, I might come in here and soften a few things, you know, and I don't want them soft. I don't want them blurry. That's why I'm using a broken edge. And I might do that with my smudge tool. I might do that with my, this one's got a broken edge. So it doesn't give me, it still feels foliagey, but like that. That's nice, right? So this breaks it up kind of nice. I don't want to do it too much. And then I'm going to dance back over it a little bit. And then I'd make my one brush, dance those highlight leaves over it, maybe break the edge of the thing again, and I'm out. So I'm really only making, in this case, I'd probably make 2 brushes. I'd make the original one that I'm sampling from to create the main mass. You know, and by the way, you can go a little bigger and a little smaller with that. So it varies, which I did, I think, a little in this. This is a little too soft out here. So I'd probably have to come back in here.
And when you do the small brush, you wouldn't use like the color dynamics to vary it. You would hand pick it yourself.
Yeah, more than likely. There, that's a little better. Yeah, now I got to go back in because I screwed up. I got to go back in and darken a few things there, and that's a little better. See, like those 2 shapes right here are too similar, right? So that's where I'll go and maybe, I don't want that similar. And just do something like that. Yeah. And then dance my little single leaf brush over there that I've scattered out, and just dance a couple of lights over it, out. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Questions? Nothing?
I actually have a question. To alternate those 2 stamps that you just did right now, you could also just change the angles.
Well, you could go in here and go, actually, that's a good point.
I mean, like have it set up that way?
Yeah, we could probably go in here. What do we got here? Oh, I'm on a smudge. Hang on. Let's see what we can do here. So we have that. Let's see. I'm going to try something here. So let's go back over here. And let's go here. Let's put that out. No idea what this is going to do. Didn't vary it that much. Little. And again, I'd have to come back over here, grab another area. Oops. And vary it like that. Right. And again, another thing you got to look at here is this isn't usually going to be the star in here. There's usually, this is foliage in a scene or something like that. It's going to sit back. So another thing you got to be careful of when you're doing something like this is like, you might just block out the foliage or whatever, and then move on to whatever else is in the scene. So you're not overworking it, because then you'll get done with it and go, holy shit, everything's at the same level of detail. It doesn't make sense. Okay. So it's always context. Yeah. Like even here, if I go here,
Because you don't want it to like visually compete with whatever the
yes,
focal point of the image is.
exactly. And an image, well, that's why I screwed this up, because I have that there, which drives me crazy. An image, I'm going to do a real half-ass thing here I would never do.
How'd you do that, Mike? You used magic wand and then you.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. Make sure you do it right. Look at the magic wand tool. Look how hard that edge is now.
Okay.
See how
All right.
ratty it is? Look at that. I'm only doing that for speed.
Right on.
I would never, ever do that in normal stuff. You know, and then I could go here. Because at some point I'd want to give this some sort of lighting idea.
Mike.
Yeah. Yep.
For my thing I did for the assignment you gave us yesterday, can you quickly just check mine?
Yesterday, I sent you an email.
Okay, no, the one that I just did today, the one that you didn't look at mine, the one today. All right, I got the email. Thank you.
Is this a photo?
Yeah, there was a photo, and then I used the.
Is that all
tool
this
over-
foreground stuff?
Yeah, I used the tool over it.
All right, and you're understanding it?
Yeah, I am.
Okay. Anyway, I'd have to give this some lighting. Does that make sense? You guys?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
it does.
I'm not really concerned with that. You guys can, you know, that's fine. Something like that. And then, you know, this here, I didn't save it. Now, let's see if I can, no, that's something. Let's go back here again. I'm going to go again back up here. Go. And this is on another layer. So it's getting me a real intense. See, when I go off though, it doesn't have the thing underneath it to work off of. And what I'd probably do here, this is really extreme. Well, I like the way it drops off right there. Pull it, yeah, I'd probably pull it down more like that. And then again, dance my really hit leaves on it, just a few, and I'm done. Make sense?
That looks nice.
Yeah. And then I could even go, let's do this. Let's see if this works. So I mix some of that sunlight color into it.
Wait, how? Sorry.
What I did was, no, it's not sorry. You should ask that stuff. What I did was, is I sampled the sky with my
Mhm.
eyedropper right here. Bing. And then this is on a separate layer. And then what I did was I went to our hue saturation and our little trick where we colorize right here based on the foreground swatch, right? Bing.
Yeah.
And because it's on an overlay, it sort of varied it a little bit. And
Okay.
it's also
Okay.
on color dodge. It's on color dodge, which is an overlay. So now we're getting a little of that sunlight mixed in there a little bit. You know, and I can vary it like right about there. Then I could take this. Oops. What am I doing? I don't know, maybe. You know, I could put one back there and change the shape. I could take this smaller. Now I'd have to adjust the lighting here. And you know, I could take this, hit shift, and start to pull it into another shape. And all I have to do is come in here now, go back here, go back to my color mixer, and go, where's the light going to hit this thing? And I can start to build a scene. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Very quickly populate, you know. And the thing I like about this is all this is based on what I created. Okay. Which is really important stylistically if you're doing a, you know, conceptual piece or an illustration or whatever, that this thing is following your stylistic approach, right? I see people all the time and they're mixing stamp brushes, which are from photographs, with a very stylized environment. And it's like, this doesn't make any sense. A stylized environment has to follow the stylization thinking throughout the illustration, correct? Doesn't make any sense if I have a bunch of photographs and then I have, unless that's a stylistic point of view. But what I like about all these tools is we're creating them from our own library of stylistic interpretation, whatever you want to call it. Okay. You know, and then if I want to put this further back, I could make it smaller, throw it back, reduce the saturation a little bit, and make it a little lighter, whatever. And boom, 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 boom. I could even take this and put it back here probably. Let's try this. Let's turn this one off for a second. And let's take these two things and put them behind everything. Now that's not transparent, so, or that is transparent, so it's going to be a little tricky here. Let's change this a little bit. Okay, these are two uniforms, so let's go Command T. I'm in the wrong layer. Let's do this one. Command T. Shift, because Shift will let me warp it a little bit. And let's just, for the sake of making it easier, let's make this sky blue. Well, where's my blue? There it is. And I like that little bit of atmosphere when it's in the blue. And then let's change this now. Maybe, again, here's our colorize button. And let's make it a little more saturated. Let's change this up a little bit. I'm trying to find something that makes a little sense. I want that a little lighter, but that's okay for now. Yeah, maybe that, maybe there. And let's see if we can go. Let's get rid of that. Let's see if I can do this. Let's see if I can just take an eraser. I don't know if this will work. Big soft eraser. Sometimes I'm going to fail at these sometimes, by the way, because I'm riffing. And let's go opacity way down. I want it even softer. A little bit of gray right there is driving me crazy. Hang on. What is that? I got on such low opacity. Hang on. And let's say we take this. I'm going to combine these two. And then I'm going to go up to filter, liquefy, smudge. It's just on a smudge. And again, I would dial this in more, but this is fine for now. And what I would do, I knock this back. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to cut it in half. And then I'm going to go drop it down. Oh, I have to do two things. Sorry. So I have to go Command C, Command V. Then I have to go back down here and do the same thing, get rid of the original. Now I should have this where I can reduce it. I would put more land mass here where it meets this and maybe find a really dry brush. There's a couple ways I can do this. Let's see what this looks like. I want a drier brush. So let's try this one. Yeah, that. And I can drag some reflections over that. Oops, too much. And we're starting to get a little scene. Does that make sense? It shouldn't go this light down here at the bottom here. I would fix that. It should actually be probably the other way around. I got that line I don't like. And then another thing I would do here now is I'd come in, probably get myself a neutral. Okay, whatever. Neutral. And get some transition here. Maybe come on. Some sort of stuff on the shoreline. Could even come out here. And let's do this. Come out here. Put another one out here, but now it's very reduced because why? It's further away and it's also got a lot of gray and stuff in it. And I could take that, probably reduce it even more. Might get lucky and just be able to, yeah. And then, I could probably reflect that into there and start to create a little scene and then come up here and do the typical, here's your Bob Ross moment. Hang on.
Are you gonna do a happy cloud?
No, actually, that's a good idea.
Oh,
That's a really good idea. What's something more neutral? A little.
Little friend, so he won't be lonely.
Exactly. Yeah, you can put your little birds up here. But clouds, let's just start with something. Let's go way back here. And we got this, let's see what brush we got. So let's go, actually it's gotta be on top. Now I can also use that sphere brush to start this because it's gonna give me some lighting and volume, right?
yes.
And then I'm gonna go boom. You don't want your clouds to look like cotton balls. Does that make sense?
So we wouldn't want to use the sphere stamp tool.
Yeah, you could.
Oh, we could. Okay. Okay.
It would probably work really good. Because it would give you, again, it would give you mass right off the bat, right? So I'm going to warm this up a little. I don't like that. It's too green. You see that? I want a warm yellow. Come on, computer. It's a little too much, but I think it's going to drop out a little bit, so I think it'll be okay. And then I'm going to come down here and get a little bit of neutral. Come on, computer, catch up with me. I like to break these up first off like that. Again, get my little idea going. I don't like this here, so I'm gonna get rid of it. There. I'm gonna break that bottom up a little bit. See, now that yellow is starting to mix in there a little bit. I could do this totally with my mixer brush, it'd be great. Okay. I'm gonna come back in here, reestablish some of this. Maybe here. Now I'm starting to see where the forms are a little bit. I'm gonna get rid of this. And I'm going to come in here and maybe get a dappled edge. And again, you could do this with your mixer brush. It would look great. You can do it a lot of different ways, obviously. I want to try this little pebble blend. Yeah, see that?
It's actually
Very
kind of
subtle.
hard to see. Is it possible for you to zoom in?
Sure.
Sorry. Thank you.
So what I'm doing is I started off with that broken edge. You see that? That was that little impressionistic blender I like, right? But now what I'm doing is coming in here and going, I want to manage my edges. So I'm going to come in here now with this one and soften some of these up so they're not all the same. Plus clouds have a variation of sort of like that. Does that make sense? Now I could also come in here because I do, and this is just typical stuff, but I'm going to come in here and get a little, see if I can get a little, Man, this computer's not quite there. I want a little more. Why I'm getting so many damned emails today. Still not quite where I want it. I want a little more. Yeah, maybe there. A little more warmth in it. So let's do this on another layer just in case, because I can adjust it. What I'll do is I'll mix a little bit of pinky warmth in there. Does that make sense? And it really depends on the environment, how far I want to go with that. You'll see, so let's, now we could go here and go. Maybe a little more pinky, a little more saturated. And then I'm going to reduce it a little bit. Yeah, more like that. You see that? Right? And by the way, this little surface thing now, again, I probably come in here. That's a little uniform. I'm just trying to find a brush that just goes across like a dry brush, like a big rough brush. But if I have this, then I might come in here and go, you know, again, I'm going to have to mix this up a little. And it'd probably be fine. I could also come in here with this brush. Maybe pick up some of this. Get a few little ripples coming away from the island. Now, one of the main things you got to take away from this is, well, how do you do reflections? You have an object reflecting in, then once the surface reflects over it, it sits back and becomes a reflection. Does that make sense?
Is there a setting or an actual dry brush that we could use to like?
Yeah, there's one in there.
There's got to be one in.
Yeah, there's definitely some in there. What I'm looking for is almost like a really broken sort of chalky brush that I'm just pulling over the surface. The mistake people make with surface reflections and things is they just get too fussy with them. And it's like, that's not what they look like. Especially like when I'm painting outdoors and I look out in the distance, you know, because I'm right by the lake. I look out in the distance, way out in the distance, the sun will be shimmering on it. Man, that is just a big dry brush pass over it. And then I'll do this, maybe. Let's go.
Mike, can you also say what you said about the reflections one more time?
Yeah. So I'm going to go, say the lights come in here. Oops. And I want to be real sparing with this. You know, I'll hit a couple of spots. I don't like this brush for this, but I'm just going to use it. You know, I don't want to overdo it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And then like here, I might come in here and I don't know, or like out here. I don't know. I can go down this rabbit hole endlessly. You know, and I'd flesh out this cloud, you know, damn it. I'd flesh out this cloud. Okay, what I was saying about reflections is you're starting off usually with a mass here. Okay, then it's repeating here, which actually should be behind this. And then depending on what the surface is doing, like I could come in here and sort of knock it down a little more. I probably would. I'd shape it out a little more for myself. I'm also going to soften these edges. So I'm softening them right now. That's better. And then I'm getting a little bit of this detail in there, which is kind of nice. You know, and then I could blah, blah, blah. You're putting your reflection or your what's reflecting. That's number one, what's reflecting into it. Okay. Then you're going, there's a surface over it. And then when I drag light over that, the actual light reflections, it just sits back and becomes a reflection. What I'm trying to say is reflections, you know, I'm not talking about super complex reflections, but simple reflections like this aren't that hard. Okay. As long as you do it, really, in this case, it's like water reflection getting reduced in value, probably softened and breaking because the surface is breaking it. and then dancing light over the top of it, and you got reflection. I mean, we just made a scene and that I could build and build and build and be done with this in a half hour. I could make this pretty complex. I could add a building into it. I could add a ship into it. I could add animals into it. It wouldn't take me very long. It took me an hour. Okay. And again, what I'm trying to show you is how do we use these things?
Mike, can you speak to one thing? Well, you know, like how we did the camera and we put the shadow down and we transformed it, but on this shadow, it's pretty much straight. What does the light, I mean, the change of the light depending on the day, and then the light hitting the surface, does that have a different transformative, or is it, you know, to the angle of the shadow?
Oh, absolutely. Everything. And when you're talking about anything, one thing about reflection, if this surface was very turbulent, there was a lot of wind, I'm not going to see that reflection, more than likely. It's going to be such a turbulent surface. It's going to be breaking it up so much. It also depends on your angle of view. So if I'm viewing this very much, like the thing I always say is, like, if you stand on a dock and look down, you'll see usually to the bottom if it's not 200 feet deep, if it's 20 feet deep, right? But if I look at the same scene and now I'm looking out to the horizon, my angle of view is this way now, and I'm not going to see down into the water. I'm going to see the surface reflection of whatever's above it usually. So if it's a gray day, it's going to be very grayed out water. And then there's certain other factors in there that'll change it. Like I was looking at the water yesterday, and it changes all the time. Whenever I go to the store, I pass the lake, right? And I'm up high. There's like a vantage point as you're driving. And like yesterday I looked at it, was a really tealy blue color, right? Which a lot of times it's very steel gray blue. A lot of times it's, and you got to look at all the things that are happening around it, and when I'm making something like this, I get to kind of decide that, and I'm doing a lot of that again, based on what I know about all this stuff and being obsessive about it. Let's try this. Oh, that's kind of nice. I don't like that light, but that's fine. I don't like that getting lighter, but I do like this a little bluer. And then I'd probably come in here and put a few of the darker ripples in there, because it needs that over here. I'd probably put a little bit of dark ripple here. This could break up in a completely different way. Like a lot of times these edges and reflections, if you've ever noticed, they'll break up much more broken. Like they'll have a very clear edge pattern, which I always like, where they're sort of breaking up. Much more broken like that. And there'll be it's really interesting. It'll go boom, broken edge dissipates, and then into the next value and color, right? And you can find those when you're looking at reflections. Am I going too far down the rabbit hole here?
Well, I like it. I think it's great.
Yep.
Casey?
No, you're fine. You're good. You're good. You're fine. It's okay.
I think all this stuff is of a piece. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I feel like if I just sit here and talk about tools and go, okay, go do whatever, you're going to be like, well, I don't know what to do with this thing. Okay.
Yeah.
It smudges paint. So what,
I think it helps because you're talking a lot about illusions, about creating illusions.
Yeah, that's exactly what you're doing. That's pretty much it, And by the way, you could probably take this, and then I'll shut up. You could probably take maybe even both of these. Let's see. Let's make a copy of this. I don't know if this will work. Let's pull it back here somewhere. Let's go boom. Let's pull this down. Oops. I got to hold shift to do that. Let's really drop it down like that. And then let's make sure it's behind everything. And then I'm going to go and grab some of this blue right here. And then I'm going to go here and again go colorize, because I want the whole thing one color. I'm going going to come in here, and this I can probably just more or less wipe out because it's so far away. Again, I could use any tool, doesn't matter. And I'm going to use this one. Let's try this one. Where is it? Right there. I'm going to use this one. Oops. Come on. There's a mask. Go back here. Where's my mountain? There it is. I want to see where this is. Yeah. I'm going to go in here. Go back to. I don't know where that dark is coming from. No, it is on it. That's weird. Okay, so let's go back here. There's something over the top of it that's doing that. But you can see now I can start to build sort of a mountain or something back there, right? Very simply. And what I'd really want to do is maybe go. I'm going to grab that value. I like that. Yeah, there's something in front of it. I don't know where that dark patch is. It's just driving me crazy, man. That's weird. It is on that layer. For some reason, it won't let me obliterate it, which is really weird. Anyway, I don't know why that is. Oh, I got to fix this. Anyway, sort of an idea, right? Yeah. And, you know, and this is kind of this, what I kind of want you guys to start thinking about, you know, it makes you employable. If you're sitting here talking to somebody and you just start whipping stuff out of your head like that, you're employable. Does that make sense? And the reason is why? Fundamentals, 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 right? You go in and if you ever notice, like when I might have said this before, but one thing you might want to do is instead of going, the things you want to learn are going to fall into categories. Okay. So like when I was at Art Center, they did, when we were doing marker rendering or whatever, it's like, okay, we're doing a cube. It's made out of wood. We're doing a cube. It's made out of chrome. We're doing a cube. It's made out of glass. We're making a cube and it's reflective, translucent. We're making a cube. And those, I don't know, 5, 6 categories start to cover a whole bunch of stuff. Does that make sense? That's how I know a lot about reflections and stuff. Okay. Things reflect into things, right? They follow the perspective, all that stuff. You know, and sort of break them down that way, because then you're going to have a real solid fundamental understanding of them. And that's what's going to make, if you see an effect outside, like the sun eating, as it goes down behind a mountain and it's eating the side of the mountain and orange eating out, find out why it does that. Because it's something you can use across the board for all sorts of different things. You know, you might have an ominous figure backlit by a heavy light and you're going to eat into the sides like that and make them look a little softer, you know, but what happens, you know, what happens temperature wise, all that stuff. Okay. And if you understand all this stuff, it makes it much easier for you to be able to do things out of your head and all that stuff. Yeah. Okay. I don't expect a big scene like this. Okay. I just want the bush idea. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. All right, you guys, we hit it right about 1. And I'm probably supposed to give you guys a break, so that's about right. Even though I never do. Anyway, all I want is the bush thing. Okay. You don't have to do a big scene. And that's it, I think. Yeah. Okay, you guys. I'll try and get this video up quick. I got to go down the hill, so I might be late on it. Okay. So if I'm late on it, I'm not going to really expect much tomorrow. Okay. And maybe class. I'll try and do it real quick right now, hopefully. I think I only have one thing I have to edit out in here, which is when I went to get something to drink. Okay.
Right on.
All right, you guys.
Awesome.
Thanks a lot, Mike.
Thanks a lot. This
Thank
is awesome.
you.
Thanks, you guys.